Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing. And today we've got another new shell and a highly requested shell at the same time. And I'm definitely excited to see what kind of results it can give us, because I think it's going to be rather impressive looking, to say the least. But as for the shell we've got out here today, I brought out some of these. These are some Winchester Super X 12 gauge 3.5 inch 54 pellet load of number 4 buck, moving about 1150 feet per second. So we haven't really done a lot of testing other than the federal shorty shells with 4 buck, and this one we're kind of starting off at the top of the range here, a 3.5 inch 54 pellet load. So definitely a lot of pellets in this shell to work with, that's for sure. Now I will mention real quick here, I think this shell might kind of be in that middle ground where it might not fit with a lot of people's setups or what they're trying to do with number 4 buck, because at least in my thought process, I want a little bit larger pellet if I'm going for deer or hogs or something. And 4 buck is fantastic for predators, coyotes and stuff, but do you really need a 3.5 inch 54 pellet load for coyotes? I don't know. So let me know your thoughts about it real quick here as to, do you think this particular loading of these is kind of in the middle ground or not, and what you think about it. Either way, definitely a pretty hot shell here today to test, and we're going to find out what it can do. And as for the setup we've got here today to run those through, I brought out the Mossberg 835 Ulti-Mag since it has a 3.5 inch chamber. And for a choke, I figured before anything else, we need to get a baseline as to what these shells can probably realistically do. So I threw the factory full choke, a standard full choke, not anything fancy like the turkey full or anything. It's just the standard factory full choke in here, and we'll see what it can do. I figured I typically start with the factory full chokes when I test buckshot kind of like this, so this will give us a baseline either way, and we can work from here based on what we see. I know several of you guys want to see 4 buck run through the Kick 680, which we definitely will do, but for today we'll start off with the factory full choke. And as for today's test, everything is going to be the same as usual. I've got the big sheet of paper at 40 yards, as well as the chronograph so we can get our velocity, and some templates that we can lay up over our target to get a better reference as to how they actually would have performed in some real life scenarios. So enough talking, let's go over here and take this shot and see what kind of results we can get out of a 54 pellet 3.5 inch load of 4 buck today. Okay, so that round gave us 1,052 through the chrono. The box claim is 1,150, so that's what, 98 feet per second under their claim. Chances are they probably tested those through like a 28 inch barrel, and I believe that 835 has a 26. Plus it is an overboard barrel, so all of those factors could have led to a little bit lower velocity than their claim. Either way, 54 pellets of number 4 buck flying at 1,052 downrange, it's not going to feel very good on whatever's in front of it, that's for sure. But what kind of a pattern did it actually give us down there? Let's go check it out and see what we got. All right, now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. And I gotta say, that is a lot of pellets flying down range for a buckshot shell. Yes, number 4 buck is smaller than something like double-aught, so you are gonna have a lot more pellets in your shell, but 54 of them flying down here, that's a lot of pellets. And I did go through and count all of these pellets on this paper as I was circling them, and we had 51 pellets out of the 54 that actually hit the paper. And the paper is 36 inches wide by probably about 40-ish or so tall. So essentially, you're going to have close to 50 pellets within a 30-inch circle or so at 40 yards. Now, as for the pattern here, it's definitely a little bit more on the broad and open side. We do have a little bit of splotchiness, mainly, I mean, look kind of right around our core. There's nothing in the white dot, but a good amount of pellets on the left and right side of it. There's a little bit of a hole above it, and right down here below it, there's kind of one pellet and then a bunch of lonely area around there. So it's definitely not a perfectly even spread. There are some little voids in there, but clearly before we even put any templates up here, that's going to do the job on anything you would probably ever use it for out to 40 yards. You're going to have pretty well everything covered with that. But let's throw a couple templates up and see what they look like. We'll start with that 10-inch circle and put it in our main core area and see what we got. Okay, so here's that 10-inch circle, and if we put it lined up with the actual core area of our pattern, as you can see, we only had 6 pellets within there. And that really shows you kind of the voids right around the middle core area of this pattern that I was talking about earlier. Because with 54 pellets flying down range, I would have thought we would have had probably 10 to 15 of them in there at least. So a little bit disappointing as far as our core goes, but I guess there's probably enough pellets just outside of that core to still get the job done for you. But let's switch over. We'll throw the deer template up here and see what it looks like. I don't know that I would personally use 4 buck for deer, but we'll put the template up there and take a look at it anyway. Okay, here's that deer template, and as you can see, yeah, that would absolutely do the job out to 40 yards on a deer all day long. Now, like I just mentioned, I don't think I would personally use 4 buck for deer. Can they do it? Yes, absolutely they can. But I'm just personally a little bit more of a double lock kind of guy if I'm using pellets for deer. But clearly, I'm not going through and counting all those pellets. You have probably at least 35, 40 pellets that are within that deer template there. So yeah, I don't think he's making it very far. But once again, you can kind of see that void. It's kind of a stripe right through the lungs vital area there by that white dot, where it's definitely a little bit less hot than the left and the right side of that pattern is. So that is something we need to pay attention to as we go forward and see if these shells continue to have little voids in there. But let's throw the hog template up there and see what it looks like. Okay, here's that hog template, and yeah, as you can see, you still pretty well have him covered. I don't think that hog is going to go very far on you. These would definitely make a pretty good hog hunting load in my opinion. But once again, like I kind of mentioned earlier, they're a 3.5-inch shell, so do you really need to spend a little bit extra on that big of a shell and deal with the extra recoil that comes with it and stuff like that to do this type of stuff? I don't know. I would probably just lean towards a 3-inch shell, but to each their own, I suppose. Either way, at the end of the day though, it's good enough out to 40 yards for you all day long, and probably 50 as well. So I suppose these shells did their job, but I do think we can get a little bit better out of them at the same time. Alright y'all, well, what do you think about those results right there? That is definitely a lot of pellets of number 4 buck flying down range, that's for sure. And clearly, it would do the job just fine out to 40 to 50 yards on whatever kind of predator you would need them for, or if you were to use 4 buck for deer or hogs or something like that. It's going to get the job done for you. But it's definitely not a perfect pattern at the same time. There are several voids right around that core area that I definitely would like to see a few more pellets fill those in, and maybe we can tune that in a little bit better with another choke, a little more constriction or something. So I'm definitely looking forward to testing these shells through some other chokes to see what they are able to give us as far as our pattern goes. But I guess this is a good starting point for us to work off of, if nothing else. But let me know your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested these 3.5-inch Winchester 4 buck shells? And if so, what has been your results? Is there another choke combo that you want to see those shells put through? And what are your thoughts about them being a 3.5-inch shell and number 4 buck, a little bit smaller of a pellet and stuff like that? Are they also in the kind of middle ground for you, or is that what you're looking for a specific reason? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we've got the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description down below if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.